guys, my name is Curry Tech and welcome back to another video on the channel. And today's video we'll be going over two $2,000 PC part picker list that I've put together on my own. One featuring AMD CPU and one featuring Intel CPU. Anyway, leave a like and smash that subscribe button. We're on our way to 40 subscribers and we just hit 1,600 views on one of our previous videos, which is super hype. Anyway, let's get into the video. Now, for the CPU of choice, we have picked the AMD Ryzen 9 3900X, which is a 12-core, 24-thread processor, priced at $450 USD. This is an 3.8 GHz base clock of a processor and a boost of up to 4.6 GHz. This is on AMD's 3rd gen architecture, Zen core architecture. This is not 4th gen Ryzen, this is 3rd gen Ryzen. Unfortunately, 5000 series processors are still pretty hard to come by during this pandemic and this global shortage of chips and dies. So the 3900X is your best bet of getting a CPU right now. Of course, it's going to be lower in IPC than the 5900X and in single thread performance. But for the amount of cores and threads that you get and the performance, price to performance, it's just a really good CPU that you can't beat. It's 3rd gen as well. So even though you might be losing a little bit of performance, it's not that big of a deal because the main part of any PC build is your graphics card, which will be the main portion of your FPS, also included with the CPU as well. Now, moving on to liquid cooling or any type of cooling, 3900X is a high tier CPU with 12 cores, 24 threads that are trying to get up to at least like 4.6 gigahertz. Obviously, when you're gaming, it's not going to hit 4.6 gigahertz, but it's going to hit around 4.4 maybe. And you want to keep those 12 cores and 24 threads cool so you have the best gaming possible and also synthetic workloads or editing 4K raw footage. Now, I went with a liquid cool AIO. At the moment I was recording and putting this video, it was actually at 134, but now it's listed at 170 on Amazon. So that's my bad, but I put it at 134. So if you can find any AIO or any air cooler under $130, obviously air coolers are going to be a cheaper and better alternative to this rather than AIO. But with a $2,000 build, you might want to add some aesthetics to this because, you know, $2,000 build, you paid a lot of money, you want it to look nice as well. So an AIO is definitely the more aesthetically pleasing and also on par performance. Air coolers are cheaper and they are actually more sustainable for long periods of time as they are heat sinks and they are aluminum heat pipes that are copper heat pipes that carry away the heat from the CPU and blow them out the back of the case. Whereas an AIO uses liquid, which actually over 4 or 5 years the loop of the liquid cooling may evaporate, meaning that there would be less cooling or not water, but the solution in the closed loop. And you might have to refill it up or just buy a new AIO down the line. Now, whether or not that's up to you for preference, but if you can find something that you like and it goes with your theme and build, then go for it. I just chose an AIO because $2,000, I'm going to use the max of the budget I can. Now, going to the Asus TUF Gaming, this is an X570 board with Wi-Fi on board. A lot of people don't have the liberty of running Ethernet or from their router to the PC. And a lot of people use Wi-Fi, and you want to have a motherboard that has onboard Wi-Fi, great sound quality, and the X570 chipset. The Asus TUF crosses off all these features. As you can see from the pictures, it has a lot of 4 DIMM slots, nice, pretty chunky VRMs, heatsinks, not the best. Active cooling fan on the chipset. The back IO is actually really nice. A bunch of USB ports, and you see the Wi-Fi antennas as well. Features an 8+4 pin design for CPU power delivery for stable power and overclocks. Also featuring 2 X16 slots, and also X570 boards do have support for PCIe Gen 4 and a bunch of SATA ports, which is $192.99 on Amazon.com. We go to the RAM. Now, with $2,000 PC build, this is where things kind of get serious. You know, you have this high tier system, and you might want to be using this for editing, or maybe you want to get into rendering or movies, like you want to like create your own movies or animations. You want really great graphics and also a lot of RAM. When you're editing or you're streaming, you have a lot of things open at the same time. You want to have a lot of RAM, and the RAM we went with is a G.Skill Trident Z 32GB kit, or by 8 sticks, clocked at 3200 speed at cast latency 16. Now at the moment, these are around $220. They have RGB. You can't go without RGB, which is totally fine. That'll actually bring the cost of the build down, and you can get higher speed RAM and also better cast latency. But if you want the RGB, then this Trident Z kit is great for you. Going from 3600 to 3200 megahertz speed, you may see a little bit of difference at FPS, but it's not going to be the greatest to most people anyway. So this kit seems to me like the best offer for $2,000 and staying within that budget of $2,000. This is on Newegg for $220. Now going to the storage, we actually have a 1TB Crucial P1 solid state NVMe M.2 drive for $104. This was actually on sale a while ago for $95. So in case you missed that, this is 1TB of NAND flash storage, super fast speeds. It's not going to be like a 970 Evo, but it's definitely the best bang for your buck M.2. And Crucial P1, Crucial has been a great company for storage, has been doing it for 10 plus years. They're really reliable. They make SSDs as well. And also, this P1 M.2 drive is amazing. I mean, I really just can't find any other bang for the buck besides Western Digital's own M.2s as well. But if you want to pair this with, instead, make this a 250 gig drive or 500 GB M.2 drive as a boot drive, and then you have a bunch of SATA storage, that's cool with me as well. This is just a great M.2 for the price, and I just can't get over it. Now moving on to the graphics, we actually have the RTX 3080, which has 10 GB of onboard VRAM and is the Asus version, the RTX the tough gaming one. So this is kind of like a tough theme gaming PC if you think about with the motherboard and the graphics card, but obviously that was just because of price. I saw an offer up, these cards could go up for $800, $900. That's probably like the best you can get. So the market has been going up. eBay has these cards for around $2,000, which is ridiculous when these cards are only $700 MSRP for the Founders Edition. Now, if you can snag one of these cards at $800, $900 on any third-party site or any eBay or OfferUp, that's probably your best bet to getting this. Now, the 3080 features around 8,000 CUDA cores, 10 gigs of VRAM, and has very beefy connectors, like power connectors. There's 3 8-pin power connectors for this GPU, so you definitely want to have a really reliable power supply that can deliver the correct amount of wattage, because this RTX 3080 is a monster hog for power, and the same as the RX 6800 XT, which is the direct competitor to the RTX 3080. Now, whether or not you want to go AMD and NVIDIA is up to you. I just went with NVIDIA because of just the reliability of them, and also just DLSS 2.0 and AMD not having an equivalent to DLSS 2.0. So that's kind of like where it draws. But if you don't want ray tracing, then you can go with the RX 6800 XT, totally fine. Now going to the case, we have a Corsair 4000D Airflow. I was going to go with a Corsair 4000X, or you can go with a Meshify C, which is a great case as well, alternative. But this case features a triple 360 millimeter support in the front, a 280 on the top, I believe, and comes with 2 pre-installed fans, all blacked out, PWM fans. Now you can put one in the back and also one in the front. That's kind of like an odd number to have anyway. But when you have a system like this, you probably buy fans anyway, third-party fans or any other market fans. So like Lee, Corsair, Master Cool, they make nice fans. Thermaltake as well makes nice fans as well. I want the Corsair 4000D Airflow with the idea of having the best airflow rather than aesthetics. This case is tempered glass, all sleeked out black, is a HTX mid-tower case, going for $95. There is a reason why A lot of reviewers of this case, and of course there's other higher end cases, were saying this is actually a really good case for the price and what it offers. It has 2.5-inch SATA drives, cages, or not cages, but brackets in the back of the case. Features a good amount of cabling, cable managing strips, and also has room for hard drives in case you want some hard drives in there as well. Great airflow throughout the case. It's different from the Lee & Lee PC11 Dynamic, which has been just the case everyone has wanted. It's a very nice case, I'll give it that. It's super nice. Even I want that as my own case sometimes. But in terms of airflow, the 4000D allows a lot more airflow into the case and doesn't have a glass box, and you don't need like 10 fans in the case as well. So, but it can support a good amount of fans as well. Now moving on to the power supply, we have the NZXT-C 8550 watt. At the time, I believe this was actually cheaper than 129. I think it was like 120, so that's why I went with it. But still, it's a great power supply from NZXT, 80 plus gold, fully modular, and sleeked out power. I mean, not sleeked out, but power, black power cables, which are really nice to have for a power supply, as fully modular as well. So you plug only the cables that you need, and you don't need any excess cables at all. And only for $130, 80 plus gold, 850 watts for a system of this high caliber is definitely going to be enough to power on this RTX 3080 and 3900 processor. Now, coming down to the total build, it's actually $2,111.94 at the time of filming. Previously, when I actually did this PC part picker list, the AIO was not this much, so bring that down $30, it'll actually be $2,086. So I do usually go over the build budget anyway in most builds, but there are areas, this is probably like the highest you can go over the budget. So you can tone down any part of this build that you want. You can go with 16 gigs of RAM instead, an air cooler up there. You could go for a lower end motherboard if you really want to, but I personally like the X570 chipset for any higher end Ryzen CPU chips. And this is probably one of the cheapest X570 boards on the market right now, with the Wi-Fi built in as well. So I went over by $100. You know, it's okay. There's obviously certain areas that you can definitely just take off money and put that towards other parts of the build. But now we're going to be transitioning over to our Intel build. And this is the Intel build. I meant to actually put the Intel i9-10900K, not the KF, but it's fine. It's the same thing. It's just the F doesn't have the integrated graphics. At Micro Center right now, I believe the i9-10900K is going for $400. And this 10900K actually went for around what, $500 something when it first released. So it's a great deal to have on a CPU of this caliber that has 10 cores, 20 threads. And for 10th gen Intel still kicks the 11 gen's butt of the 11900K, which has 8 cores and 16 threads. So you're losing 2 cores and 4 threads if you go with the 11 gen high-end Intel system. Obviously, you want the cores and threads for synthetic workloads, maybe doing editing, you know, playing games. There's also games that now really use multi-threaded workloads as well, like hyper-threading. So games are now taking advantage of hyper-threading. As most of the parts in this build are the same as the AMD list from before, so I will not be going over most of the parts except for the motherboard, and then that's it. And for the motherboard, we went with the MSI MPG C490 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi with the LGA 1200 socket. Now, with this motherboard, it features onboard Wi-Fi. It's an MSI motherboard, has a great BIOS. It's the highest chipset for a 10th gen Intel, and honestly is a very nice motherboard with a great I/O system on the back. Bunch of fan headers, SATA port headers. There's like 6, I think, or maybe 8. And for the features and the price of only $230 to fit it into this build, that's really nice. And the Corsair iQ AIO, you could change that to something else. That used to be $130, and let me check it right now if it's actually $130 somewhere else. Now it actually went up. Wow. So that's the Capell X1. but you can definitely go with an air cooler and still be totally fine anyway. And this is everything. This build is exactly the same as the AMD one, only with the fact of the motherboard and the CPU changing. And yeah, and the total price of the build actually comes out to $2,098. Now, if you take the $30 off that it was supposed to be, it would have been 2,000 and around 60 something. So I still went over anyway, so that's still on me. But both of these systems will give you the best performance possible. And also, if you like RGB, it gives you RGB as well. Obviously, I go over the budget by like $60. So try to stay under the budget of $2,000 because of tax and everything. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this PC part picker list. Leave a like and comment down below your other suggestions and other video ideas. Anyway, peace out. Thanks for watching.